Hey, how's it going? And welcome to the Casual Gamecast, episode 73. You may notice something a little different. Phil's not hosting today. It is me, Shane, and I am joined by the lovely Aaron.
Hi, that's me.
Hello.
Hi there.
Unfortunately, Phil died in a terrible blimp accident, but he died doing what he loved, blimping. So he's no longer with us, and me and Aaron are going to take over the show and run it into the ground from now on.
That's the plan.
That's the plan. I know, Phil's alive and well. He's just a little under the weather. Get well soon, Phil. Hugs, kisses, love, all that stuff.
Or You'll don't, because I like controlling the podcast. You know?
This is our domain now. We own this show. So yeah, this week is, seeing as Phil is not here, and while the cat's away and all that, and also he hasn't played the game, so this would kind of be terrible if he was here for him to just sit in silence. We are going to talk all things Elden Ring for like the next 40 minutes to an hour or whatever.
Lovely.
Aaron has finished the game. I am close to finishing the game. Close enough, and I've played enough that I believe I can talk enough about it that we will...
I mean, your collective Souls experience...
That as well, yeah. I do have a collective Souls experience. I have countless hours in all of the Souls games. So I think we'll be good that way. We're going to try and maybe like give you a cutoff point for spoilers. We're going to spend the first while just talking about how we feel about the game in general. And then we're going to kind of call a clock on spoilers. And then anything after that point is going to be spoilers. So keep an ear out for like our spoiler warning. And then after that, you're on your own. You know what I mean? If you hear something, you hear something. That's up to you. Like I said, Aaron has the game finished. I am close to the end. So if you don't want some end game spoilers, even if you're the kind of person that doesn't like to know the name of a location before you get there or something, which I know some Souls people are really weird about that stuff.
Yeah.
So anyway, let's just do it. Let's get into it. Let's talk about Elden Ring. Do you know what I want to start with, actually? We'll start where it all begins. The theme music for the main menu.
Oh my god, it's like the THX.
It has no right to slap as hard as it does. Like it
does.
really doesn't. It really doesn't. Like it's literally. I put a GIF into our Discord. We have a community Discord, by the way, the Casual Game Community Discord thing. It'll be linked down below of this podcast, so you can go click on the link and find it there. But I literally put in I started up the game when it first came out, and I immediately went onto the community Discord and put in a GIF of Millhouse when he puts in the his name in Bone Storm, and it's like all I did was enter my name. That's exactly how I felt pressing the start button on this game. And this is just the menu music, people. This is not even like the intro cutscene. This is just the main menu where it's like new game, load game, sentence, or whatever.
For people who don't know and haven't experienced it, especially when you just load up the initial splash screen, there's a big orchestral swell, and it is probably one of the best. Just like, get ready. Buckle up the bootstraps there, boys. We're about to go on an adventure. It just you're dead right. It does. It absolutely slaps. You're ready for an adventure. It just grabs your attention. It's
I know. Look, see, two of us.
It's hard to put no words. Yeah, it's hard to put no words, especially. I tell you, don't. When the first time launching the game, if anyone hasn't played yet and decides, I'm going to listen to a podcast just to see how I feel about it beforehand. If you do, make sure your headphones are turned up as loud as possible. That's my advice to you.
Yeah, it is absolutely awesome. I sometimes find myself when I'm booting up the game as well, just sitting on the menu for a few minutes, just to let that the orchestral drop happen.
For me, I sit there and wait because I'm just preparing, just mentally, physically. I know it's coming.
Yeah, very true, very true. So I suppose we better, because we're trying to be spoiler free for the first while. General impressions, I'll take a leap out of Phil's book here and go, when I say Elden Ring, you say
I don't know. It's so hard, because what I keep telling people, I'm like, there is no game like it. It's just when you say Elden Ring, I say grim. It's a grim world, but it's meant to be in a grim, as in the same as Death Stranding grim, as in that's the theme and idea of the game. You're just waltzing around, and the feeling of you're just another character in this created dystopian world.
Yeah,
it's
hauntingly beautiful was a phrase I used to someone at one stage.
That is spot on.
Yeah, it is a very like cold, harsh. All Souls games are cold, harsh words. Like every Souls game, like most games, you are the hero, the protagonist. You're Batman, you're Superman, you're Spider-Man, you're whoever you are. You're a big, massive, muscly guy with a gun or whatever. But like in Elden Ring and most Souls games, in fact, you, the main character, are like lower than dirt.
Yeah, you're trying to become the hero.
Yeah, you're trying to become the hero. You don't start as the hero, or you don't like have all the wonderful magical ability. Like you're not Nathan Drake that can immediately climb a skyscraper and kill 20 dudes and then swing on a rope and find like $4 billion worth of, you know, sunken treasure. Yeah. You are like, in this game, you're called the Tarnished, which is another way of saying like chosen undead, or, you know, whatever hunter, whatever term they use in any of the Souls games, really. Yeah. But you are the lowest of the low. You are like a wretch, you know. You were called as much in the like intro cutscene and at the start of the game.
I mean, you were previously banished from the lands between. You weren't even seen as worthy to have the soil beneath your feet.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly. So obviously you like it. You know, based off it. Yeah. And I absolutely love it as well. I adore it. In fact, I think it's a masterpiece of a game.
100%.
Definitely. We'll get into more of that as we go. But like, just, I suppose, what am I trying to say here? We said it's a masterpiece, but like when you first kind of started, you're not as big of a Souls vet, let's say, as I am.
Yeah. So I think that's a good place to start off with. So my first Souls game was Bloodborne. I didn't finish Bloodborne. I think it was a combination. It was one of those games I was just also playing in the background at the time, and then this was a while ago, so I think what actually happened was I might have just gotten my PC and then just forgotten about the PS4, and that's one of the main reasons why I didn't finish it. I have like ever since playing Elden Ring, I've been like, it's now in front of me because I had to pull it down from when the computer went on me, so I pulled the PS4 out of the cupboard and decided to give it another lash again. So I have it here ready to go, and I'm very tempted to like go rerun through Bloodborne. Because I want to finish it. I want to just have that under my belt as well.
Yeah.
Past that, about a month before Christmas, so like the start of December, one of my mates gifted me Dark Souls 3 and just said, "Here you go, prepare yourself for Elden Ring," and I loved it. I couldn't stop playing. I hated it, but I couldn't stop playing it. And it was. But what happened there, a similar kind of situation, was the access to the Dark Souls 3 servers stopped working, meaning I lost all my progress, and they weren't going to. They couldn't fix it until after Elden Ring came out. So I was at that stage. I was like, well, I'm not starting again. I'll just wait to play through Elden Ring and hop back. So hopefully, if that issue is sorted, I will hop back into Dark Souls 3. You, on the other hand, have played way more Souls games than me. Please.
Lots. So yes. My first experience of Souls was Dark Souls 1. And literally, a friend of mine like knocked on my door one day, back when I was very unemployed and he was very unemployed and we had not a whole lot to do. And he knocked on my door one day like with his like PS3 under his arm. And he's like, "You have to play this game. You have to." Phil will know, this is Barry. Phil will know Barry from here because Phil grew up near me. And Barry was like, "You need to play this game. Like, you must." And then he like, we sat down, we started playing it for a lot of the day, and I was hooked straight away. And then he just like was like, "I'm just going to leave you my PlayStation till you finish this. Like, I don't need it. It's fine. You can just keep it, and you can just like, you know." And I was hooked from day one. Like, I couldn't stop, and I couldn't stop, and I couldn't stop. And a good chunk of my friends we were sitting there like passing the controller between deaths, and you know, "Oh, like, I can't beat this boss, you need to try," and that kind of stuff. And then when I was hooked from there, it was just like a natural thing of like, "Oh, there's a Dark Souls 2 coming out soon. Sweet. Day one purchase. Great. Loved every minute of it." Same with Dark Souls 3. Same with Bloodborne. Love Bloodborne a lot. Sekiro, I'm a little colder on, but that's a very specific gameplay style, and it's a very like, if you're not into parrying or anything in Dark Souls or that kind of stuff, that's all kind of Sekiro is essentially. That's a very broad. I know there's a more nuanced way to describe that combat, and I'm sorry to Sekiro fans that are listening. I'm paraphrasing. And then I went back to Demon Souls remake on the PS5, which was stunningly beautiful. I never played the PS3 version, unfortunately, still haven't. And now here we are at Elden Ring, and Elden Ring is definitely a combination of all the years of Souls games. Like, they take a little bit of Sekiro, they take some of Bloodborne, they definitely take a lot of Dark Souls 3. Like, they take a lot of that and they cram it into a huge open world that's full of stuff. Like, I never felt unrewarded for exploring.
Yes, that's spot on. Everywhere you go, like every corner you turn. There was one point I remember I was riding Torrent around. I was coming up to a cliff and I saw a little path at the end of it, and I went down the path because I just knew there'd be something there. There had to be something there, or else there wouldn't be a path. The world is insane. Yes. And everywhere you go, specific mob types that perfectly theme or fit in. There's obviously some repeats, but like the one, just the world itself. And not just that, there's not just the world, for those that don't know, there's also the underground, which is an extension of the map. Past that, like, as I said, every area having like specific mobs themed, the hundreds of... I'll get onto it later, but there's something I desperately am so excited that will definitely come soon, that's not specifically gameplay related, but the amount of creatures, the amount of weapons, and like, as I said, like, there's people. I think it's 100% From Software's biggest launch, and I think like it's been has it been out a month now, or is it just gone 3 weeks?
It's approaching a month roughly, and so far they announced recently that it sold 12 million copies. Which the only thing in the last 12 months to beat it, I think, was FIFA and Call of Duty.
Jesus.
So that includes like Horizon Zero Dawn 2 and stuff like. And
that's
what I mean?
Yeah. What's also interesting, I remember in earlier episodes of the cast we were talking about Elden Ring was like brought up when we were talking about games we were excited for the year, and I think at one point the prediction I made, which clearly was wrong, I thought that like it'll be like a big game amongst gamers, but it probably. It'll be known about mainstream, but probably won't be played mainstream regularly. That's clearly wrong. I was way off base. Because I think what I was thinking was, I think we were more talking about like Game Awards, and I thought, okay, well, like Game Awards will tend to not really just go off of what some lad that happened to pick up Elden Ring thinks off of it, and they will go with like a general gamer consensus, who I do believe will have a more positive outlook on Elden Ring, which seems to be the case. There has been some backlash on it, although I haven't seen it from any players as much as I've seen it from devs of other companies. But that was interesting and came across as very salty, very salty. You know, you're talking like there was like an ex-Blizzard dev and an EA dev or something like on Twitter ranting and raving about how terrible the game design was and all this kind of stuff. And like, I mean, you're entitled to your opinion, but I mean, they were just wrong. They're just wrong. I was gonna say, like, it can be you're entitled to say that, but like, just because you have the ability to make those words do not mean they're true.
Exactly, and it is a masterclass in game design. Now, don't get me wrong; it is not flawless in terms of game design. Like, it does have some legacy issues that are holding over from Souls games. Some. Not many, because if you're looking for a Souls experience, part of that is the From game design. That includes everything from NPC quests to how the world operates to how the game controls. Also, again, the question of accessibility has come up, which always comes up when there's the release of a Souls game. We're not going to get into that here. We've talked at length about accessibility on the podcast before, and I know it doesn't hurt anybody to have accessibility options in games, and it's a shame that Elden Ring doesn't have the accessibility options that it could have, or maybe should have. But that's a whole accessibility conversation. We're not going to get into that with Elden Ring. This is an Elden Ring conversation.
Yeah.
And it is, I will say, in terms of a Souls game, for the average gamer, it is the most accessible in terms of mechanics and playing the game, and just like everybody knows and everybody's heard how hard From games are. Yes, they are very hard. This is no exception. This is still a very hard game. But because of its non-linear nature and its open world, you're not being gate-kept by bosses and stuff. Like in past From games, if you wanted to progress forward, you had to beat the boss. It was the only way to move forward, because then you couldn't get to the next part of the level.
Yep.
In this one, you get to a boss and you're like, this is really hard, I can't do this. You're like, well, there's a whole other area over here that I haven't explored. I could just go over that way and maybe kill some guys and get stronger, find a new weapon, find a new piece of magic, find whatever you might find and be done with it and come back and be stronger and beat the boss.
Yep.
And it's not a mindless, monotonous farm of just like, oh, I need to farm XP, so I'm just going to go to a spot and kill the same 4 guys, because that's what you had to do in past Soul games because they were linear. But now you can just go and explore and find cool items and find cool things, and you feel like you're being rewarded for your experience farming, because you're unlocking new parts of the map and finding new dungeons and catacombs and all this kind of carry on. But in terms of game, like, what do you think about the game design and the game philosophy that comes along with Elden Ring?
I completely see why Elden Ring can be very jarring to people. Like 100%. It's even just down to like the controller scheme. Because actually, as we mentioned, as I finished it and then I immediately hop back in for a second playthrough. Now I'm flicking between Elden Ring and other games now at the moment because it's only the second playthrough. But other like similar games, like I try to play a bit of Monster Hunter Rise, and I was just a game I'd normally be quite adept and good at. I'm just mixing up the controls. Just like the control scheme's completely different, obviously, because on most games, but like on most games you'll have like Y and X for attack, or maybe like A and B, or circle and square, whatever control you decide to use. Even just having it on the shoulder buttons. Now, in saying that, I'm actually now swinging over to prefer the Souls type controller scheme, having the R1 and the strong attack and your shield, all your attacks being on the shoulder buttons almost makes more sense to me now, and having B or circle if you're on a PlayStation controller, or B dodge makes more sense to me now than having A or X. On top of that, as you said, the NPC storylines, and one of the main things I've heard, and I absolutely see why it would be an issue if it's something you would have a problem with. Personally, I don't. Is the game, like, essentially, for anyone who's not aware, the game tells you nothing. Like, literally nothing. You have to figure everything out. You will meet someone, they'll go, give this letter to me, da. Where's your da? Yeah. That way. And you go, okay, I can go that way, but that way includes an entire continent. And they go, I know. Now, eventually, you'll stumble across their da. You don't know it's their da until they happen to mention, I have a daughter. And you go, oh, I have something to give you. Yeah. And that's kind of how it works. And it's the same as like a lot of stories told through like art that's up on the walls, item descriptions, stuff like that. It's a casual, what FromSoft are known for. And I get why a lot of times people are kind of like, well, this just seems aimless. And it's not that it's aimless, it's just you haven't been spoon-fed an aim, essentially.
Yeah. And the kind of like, and even in this game compared to other Souls games, even a lot of that is a lot less harsh than it is. Like, sometimes that character will go, oh, can you go find such and such in castle such and such for me? So at least you know, okay, if I go to that castle, they're going to be in there somewhere. Yeah. It doesn't put up a big blue beam of light on the map, like, say, in a Ubisoft game or something, to say, go here, collect the thing or whatever, which is a refreshing thing for me. That's one of the things I like most about it, is that you've seen the jokes and the memes online about how, like, I think someone posted a picture on, like, if Ubisoft made Elden Ring and it had, like, a mini map and, like, 400 different markers and stuff like that. That style of game is refreshing to me, that, like, it's like, there is no hand holding. There is like, okay, this person said that, if you can meet this blue wizard or whatever, they'll have this thing for you. So you need to remember to yourself, right, there's a blue wizard somewhere. I might not meet him for another 10 hours, but I need to fight. If I meet that blue wizard, I need to be like, oh, I have this medallion for you. Now you give me a key to unlock a thing that I couldn't get through, and I find some cool item or whatever, you know.
Yeah, to give another example, there is somebody you meet quite early in the game in the main hub area, and he asks you to find, I believe it's not too spoilery, but it's one of his house servants, I think. I could be wrong, maybe.
Yes.
Yeah, it's one of his house servants. So I only remembered he was a thing on my second playthrough. In the first playthrough, he leaves very early, and I never interact with that story quest. What that means is some quest lines and some availabilities and some choices later on in the game are not up to me now, because I never finished his storyline. I didn't interact with people from his storyline that could have more storylines themselves. And essentially what Elden Ring does that no other game really has hammered down in is it rewards inaction. If you choose not to act on something, that causes just as many consequences as choosing to act on something, which is something that has been severely, I guess, missing from games, and something that only really, I think so far, the FromSoft formula has only been able to really hammer down to, because as I mentioned earlier, it's a world that you are just a part of. Like, it doesn't, it's one of the few games where the world literally does not revolve around you. If you go on, you kill a couple of bosses, well then, like, NPCs will progress their storylines. They'll go on and live without you, because as we mentioned before, you're just another Tarnished. You're just another member of this massive overarching story.
It does. It makes you feel like the NPCs are on their own journey that's nothing got to do with you. You can be involved in it. You can be a passenger on their journey or a speed bump in the road. But, like, if you never ever interact with them...
Or a knife in the back.
Or that. If you never interact with them, it still feels like that they're going on their own journey without you regardless. Like, it almost feels like, you know, like... when in Toy Story, when Andy closes the door and all the toys come to life, you feel like even if you're not playing, if you're not playing Elden Ring, that NPC is off, you know, exploring a castle they're doing, looking for their beloved or whatever it is that their main goal is, you know, in that kind of way, shape, or form. In terms of, before we take like a little break and get into spoiler stuff, just in terms of other kind of quality of life changes that Elden Ring had that I think is a big improvement this time as well, is that, like, items and weapons and spells and consumables and everything, they've gotten rid of all the kind of obtuseness. There is a very, like, you know, instead of going like, this is the storm sword of the king of the winds or whatever, and you're supposed to know what that means. It literally goes, oh yeah, this is the storm sword of the king of the winds or whatever. This is what it does. You know, it does this exact thing. If you hold down this button, it will charge up a tornado or whatever. And you know, that's been great in a way, because sometimes trying to figure out what the hell a thing did in a Souls game was just... Now, some people might argue that you're taking away the fun of the trial and error of, like, trying out a weapon and trying out a spell or whatever to see what it does, but sometimes it's nice to just pick something up and go, look, when you fire this spell, 10 projectiles are going to come out and home in on an enemy, and you know exactly what it does, and you know whether that suits your playstyle or not, because it is a game about playstyles at the end of the day as well.
Absolutely. And that's another thing that it is phenomenal with, is that your playstyle, what you choose to do, can determine a multitude of things, between, like, as we said, what you experience, what quest lines and the people you meet, or how difficult you want the game to be. Like, if you can, if you so wanted, you could just choose a level 1 wretched character and just not level it up, and just only do it. And then that way the game's going to be harder. You get to choose your difficulty, or you can just massively over level yourself, pick, like, all big, like, you know, I've seen some incredibly, just insane damage coming off of some mage builds.
Yep.
Is that what you're aiming for? It is.
We'll get into that when we get into spoiler territory. Don't worry about that. But it is a game about choice, and, like, they've never been more open to experimenting and trying different styles. Like, in past games, let's say you wanted to be a mage, for example, and you needed a weapon that's scaled with the stats you're pumping up, because in Souls games, it's very much about min-maxing. If you're a mage, you want to be putting all your experience points into the mage stuff and not a whole lot else, because coming towards the end of the game, you're going to struggle if you've spread your points too thin. And then you're going to need to find a weapon that like scales its damage with the particular stats you need to increase for being a mage. But this time around, you find a weapon that you like, and if you're capable of wielding it, well, then you can go to the blacksmith and you can change its scaling type. So instead of it being like a dexterity weapon or a faith weapon or whatever, you can change it to be a magic scaling weapon, which means it will work with your chosen stats and it will give you the damage boosts, which you could never do before. You were kind of hampered in other games going like, well, if I'm a mage, I can use like these 4 weapons and that's all I can use because they're the mage weapons. And it's been an evolution of that FromSoft formula, and now they've made it so that like nothing is off limits. Once you have the stats to wield it, because some stuff has stat requirements, like a big, strong, heavy weapon might mean you need more strength stat. Fair enough. It's straightforward enough. You kind of, you get it, what we're talking about. And now you can just change that scaling to be like, oh, well, I want to be a arcane build to use like blood magic or whatever. So you just change the scaling to arcane with... Now, this is not as easy peasy as 1, 2, 3 because it's a From game. You obviously have to find a special item to bring to the blacksmith that will allow you to, like, do this kind of stuff. You can't just pick up a weapon and go into the menu and go, I'd like to change it to this one, please. That's not how it works.
Your finest bleed magic weapon, please.
Yes, exactly. There is still some From hoops to jump through, and there is still some of the obtuse From software stuff in this game, which doesn't bother me. It bothers some, but I like the obtuseness and I like the being lost and not being handheld and not knowing what the hell's going on or where I'm going, and then something clicks and you have this light bulb moment of like, aha, that's what, if I give this thing to this person, then that'll unlock this, and then now I see what's going on.
I think going back to what you're saying about like the playstyles and picking different weapons. So, like, for example, my first playthrough, I played an entirely, like, shieldless melee build. And now my second playthrough, I'm going, like, a sword and shield build. Something just different with a bit of magic as well. I picked up a gravity-based staff. So I've been
I know the one.
Yeah. So I've been firing around a few rock slings as well as, like, also having a sword to get up in person. And it's a completely... well, same map, but like I'm playing a completely different style game. What was previously a like quick burst bleed assassin, quick step in and out, DPS build is now a shield, guard counter, fire magic, keep distance. Do you know what I mean? Like it's as you said, it's a whole different play style. Now obviously to fulfill that playstyle, as you mentioned, you have to go through the regular hoops of like, oh well, you need this type of item to upgrade this, but like that type of item to upgrade that, but in order to get that type of item you need to go to this place and then you get that key to open up this door. And I think like for me, I love that because I love when games are like, oh, you want to do like this one simple thing? Cool, just do 20 complicated things first. Fine. And Joe, okay, you've given me stuff to do. I'm playing for longer. And if I always have that goal of like, well, I can't beat this boss until I get my +5 weapons, so I guess I'm just going to have to do all this. And then you go and you beat the boss and you know that you're after like spending 2 hours of your night searching through catacombs for like some warty flower, and then you bring it back and now you beat him, and it was well, I won't say easy, but like it was significantly less stress because like you put in that's, as you mentioned before, like it's 100% one of the most rewarding types of games I've definitely ever played. Like when you kill someone, it's very, very, very rarely anything other than to do with just you did it. Like it's rarely ever luck. It's you were standing in the right position. You guarded at the right time. You attacked at the right time. You attacked at the right time. And when you die, it's because you were standing in the wrong position. You defended at the wrong time. You attacked at the wrong time. So do it again, and this time do it right. Jam?
Yeah, it's brilliant that way. And like, I've been on this soapbox for years about Souls games, and I'm so happy that this one has brought so many people in.
Yeah,
I'm a little trepidatious that I really hope, and I'm sure they will, but I hope that From kind of have the stones to go like, Well, just because we're getting popular doesn't mean we're going to change our mechanics or our designs.
I hope.
You know?
Yeah.
You know, that's the one thing. Like, I hope that they don't do that. I hope they don't go, oh, we're massively popular and super mainstream now. You know what? Let's put on all the quest markers and let's put on the list of like the NPCs and the quests and the updates. And I hope they don't. I don't think they will. I hope they won't. But look, we're about halfway through now, you know, and the game has been out almost a month, so I'm sure a lot of people have played it. So this is 12 million people, in fact. But this is your warning. We are going to take a little break. You might hear an ad for something. You might hear something about our socials. All our socials do be down below anyway. You know, you can click on the links and whatnot for our, you know, Facebook group and our Twitter and our Instagram and all that stuff. So we're going to take a little break, and when we come back, it is spoiler central. I'm talking like, you've been warned. If you're 20 hours into this game or whatever, we could be talking end-game stuff. You know, we could be talking credits here. Anything at all. This is like, well, to a certain degree, because I'm not finished yet, so I'll call Aaron out if he does. But yeah, we're going to take a quick break. We're going to come right back, and then we're going to do like spoiler central. So you've been warned. I know I shouldn't be telling listeners to leave, but you've been warned. If you come back after the break, there will be spoilers. Peace.
Hey there! If you want to keep up with all things casual game content, you can do so in a number of ways. The easiest way to do so is to follow us on all of our socials at Casual Game Co. Not content, because you only get 15 characters, but hey, what can you do? At Casual Game Co. That's at CASUALGAMECO. Can't be any simpler than that. On Twitter, on Instagram, and on Facebook. And when you're at Facebook, look for the group, the Casual Game Community. It's a good bunch. We're going to love you. Come on by. If you could do us a massive favor, like the podcast, review the podcast, and just tell a friend about the podcast. It goes a long way. And you can find all of our content on podcast forums, wherever you get your podcasts, by searching for Casual Game Cast. Thanks again for all of your help and all of your support. It means the absolute world to us. Now, back to the show.
And we are back. And like I said before the break, you've been warned. This is spoiler central now for Elden Ring. We're going to talk about locations. We're going to talk about weapons, spells, bosses, NPCs, quest lines. Like, you name it, we're going to talk about it. So if you haven't finished the game, right now I'm going to mention a location, because this is how far I've gotten in the game, to give Aaron a warning and to give you a warning as well. I have gotten to the end of a place called the Mountaintop of the Giants. We won't be spoiling any further than there, so if you're before that area, you might get some spoilers. If you're up to that area, you're safe enough. Also though, depending on what you've done or not done, a lot of things can be considered spoilers. There could be something from the start of the game that you missed that could be a spoiler, so just be warned. That's it now. I'm sick of warning you. We're getting into it. First of all, okay, favorite location. Favorite most, like, because this game is pretty.
Oh, it's insane. I don't know what order. No, have you done all of Ranni's quest line?
Yes, I've done everything except for the 2 areas we spoke about on the break that I haven't done.
Okay, cool. So just to be sure before I say it, because I'm really worried about accidentally spoiling. Have you been to all of the underground?
Yes, every piece of it. I've done all of Ranni's questline, completed it. I have the blade, the fucking sword thing.
Yeah.
The whole lot, like, I've completely 100% finished it, completed it, done.
Okay.
Are you talking about Necron the Eternal
Yes.
City? Or Nokron the Eternal City?
Eternal City, yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely gorgeous.
Damn. So, for anyone who has played it, or is listening still, like, yes, Elden Ring is a big open world RPG, like your Skyrims or whatever, but, like, there is also an entire underworld to that map as well. Like literally, Necron the Eternal City is a huge underground city that you can go down and explore, that you might never find if you don't do certain quest lines or find, like, a certain entrance or area to get to it. Now, you'd want to really kind of be hard pressed not to find it, because you find a lot of those lifts out in the world, you know, that bring you down to them. But at the same time, like, I mean, you could completely miss it. And it is like, there is literally 4 or 5 giant underground worlds that are as big as any area in the overworld.
Yeah. Exactly. Like they are essentially just like Dark Soul maps to an extent.
Yeah.
I know one or two are like different because they'd be more open worldish, but as we mentioned, like with the whole like with Nokron, just I still can't get over the world design. Like it's a real thing that we're experiencing. It's a real game, and I still can't wrap my head around it.
Like the game is a testament to picking an art style and sticking to it, and picking a design style and sticking to it, rather than going for realism or whatever. And I know lots of games do it, even down to indie games do it. They pick an art style and they stick to it. And this game, for a big AAA release, is a testament to that. It's not going to be as pretty as your Horizon Zero Dawns or your Spider-Mans. It's not going to have your ultra slick 4K ray traced reflections or whatever. But in its own style, it is absolutely gorgeous.
It'll have the best screenshots in the game. I can tell you.
Yes.
Like I've mentioned it before. I was recording. I threw together like small little clips that I just threw up on my Google Drive just to show people. It's like, you need to see. It's like, I know you'll see stuff in like promotional trailers, but this is what playing the game looks like. Look at so like one of the things I sent, and it's going to be, you've obviously, I'd say got to it, is the magma worm pyre, the big dragon.
Yeah, I fought one or two of them, but I know the one you're on about. It's in like a lake of magma.
Just after the. Oh no, it's not. It's just after the rune-strewn precipice. I believe is the place with like loads of bats. There's like singing bats there and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Fuck that area. But like just that was one of my favorite fights in the game. If anyone's listened to this before, unbelievably massive Monster Hunter fan. I love just hunting giant dragons and stuff like that. And that, just the lighting, the sound, the arena that you're in, the amount of times like he'd spit fire on the ground and then lean down to me, and there's just this big red scaly dragon face in front of me, and the animations are insane for it. Now keep in mind, there's something else to talk about in terms of like PC performance. Because I know
that's a different story.
I've heard people like complain about it. I'm running off of a 1066 gigabyte, and I'm doing 1440p, and I'm getting now on the main open world, I'm getting probably around 40 to 50.
Yeah.
But like if I'm running through catacombs stuff like that, I'm still hitting 60, so I don't care. And I'm a high. And I've experienced. I think in the month it's been out, I have had some crashes. Well, I've heard some people say it's completely unplayable, and I have not experienced that in the slightest on PC.
Yeah. PC can be a bit hit or miss,
Yeah.
because like even having like something slightly different in your PC build someone else can mean the game could be unplayable for you. There's definitely been some frame dips on the PS5 as well. Usually in large open areas where there's a lot happening.
Yeah.
Like in this game, you could walk down a road and there could be like, 3 or 4 like bat monster creatures fighting some soldiers completely independent of you. They will fight and kill each other and do their thing, and you can just walk on past and ignore them, or you can get involved if you want. And when that kind of stuff is happening around you, when you're galloping on the horse at high speed and there's lots of things going on, the frame rate has taken a dip here and there. But for 97% of the game, it's buttery smooth for me. It's perfectly fine.
I'd love to see that. I've heard apparently the best performance is PS4 emulated on PS5, but
yes, apparently so. If you want to get 60 frames, the PS4 version on PS5, which I thought was a bit of a slap in the face for some people, going like, if you want a best experience, play the PS4 version on your PS5. Like, well, why did I get a PS5? You know what I mean? But anyway, that's a whole other argument. So, like, you were talking earlier on about like different enemy types and different stuff, and now that we can spoilery things, like even like the different areas of the game, like you go into, say, Caelid, and you have Redanian soldiers, and they're like your standard human enemy with a shield or a spear and a sword, but like they're dressed different. They're wearing like the Redanian colors, and they have a different shield, and their weapon is shaped different and stuff like that. They fight the same as a human enemy in Limgrave or whatever, but they're dressed as like Stormvale soldiers from a different castle and stuff. Like, there is warring factions in this world. There is a fully realized, fully fleshed out world, and very little assets repeat themselves, but like I said, it's the same human soldier in a different outfit. Like the fight doesn't change much. The odd time maybe they might unleash some crazy power or some like set their sword on fire that another soldier couldn't do in a different area because that area of the map is all about like the fire priests or whatever, you know, this kind of thing. But like for the most part, like the world is packed with enemies and stuff to do with very little repeat.
Yeah, that's that's something else I keep harping on about to everyone. It's like the amount of creatures in it that you see are insane. Like it feels it 100% up there as one of just the best fantasy worlds ever created. In terms of just how like real, like the world building in it is almost second to none. That's something I mentioned earlier, something I would love to see, and it's 100% gonna come soon. I don't know if it'll come from Software. I am so excited to get an Elden Ring monster manual. Just like 100 and something whatever pages of all the creatures in it. Don't even need their stats, but just give me their backstory. I just want to look at them all, because that's one of the things I've loved most about this game is I want to see everything. I want to go somewhere and like it's just a floating gravity ball full of stone faces, and then I turn around and then there's a soldier behind him with like 4 arms and 6 swords and 2 crossbows, and that's fine. It's just I thought Bloodborne's character design was insane, and it's just that mixed, as you said, mixed with Dark Souls, mixed with everything. It's every FromSoft game in one, and you especially see that between the character design and the world design.
Definitely. And even down to like little things, like little design features that unless you're really paying attention you wouldn't even notice. Like I'm sure you fought a couple of the like octopus ball creatures with the beaks, the large version of them, not the little mini ones, but the large guys. They're quite a hard fight, and they appear especially on like kind of coastal areas and sometimes in caves and stuff. But like if you watch them, if you suddenly see them like regain health or something, you're like, how'd they do that? Because sometimes you have your health flasks and some human enemies have their health flasks. If you watch closely, it eats one of its own tentacles to regain health. Like it chows down on its own tentacle to regain health. And that's fully animated and stuff, but like you're obviously in the fray of a fight and you probably won't even notice that because you're too busy panicking, going, oh, it's going to kill me, oh shit, I need to run, I need to dodge, I need to put up my shield or whatever. And like detail like that is insane.
Yeah. Exactly, and I think the only thing close is it's kind of almost like a fantasy Red Dead in the way. I know Red Dead was similar enough in terms of like they had a lot of stuff going on in the background, or like you could be sitting in a bush and looking, and then suddenly a bird will like pick a fish out of a river, and the same sort of stuff happens in Elden Ring, as you said, like that you could just be looking at a couple of enemies and then suddenly a couple of imps come in, and imps don't like octopus for some reason, so then they'll just start scrapping. Or you see outside is it Castle Morn, on the walk up to it there's a lot of like ghost humans fighting real humans. I never remember the names, but including like a big ghost giant, and like when you look into it and you see it, it all makes sense. It's all it's all foretold in the story. It's not told directly to you, but you can absolutely find an explanation for anything.
You can pick up one of those soldier shields and the item description will be like, such and such shield of the such and such soldier who have been a warring faction of such and such for years. And you look at the other shield that the other soldier dropped, you're like, oh, this is the faction that they war with. This is why they're having a row out in the world. You know, they came across each other on a path and now they're killing each other, you know, stuff like that. So yeah, I want to go back again to a few of the locations and the areas, because man, like there is. So number one, you were saying you took some clips. There is a lot of like reveals in this game, as in like scenic reveals. Like you get to. It
starts with one. To be fair, it does. Like
it does. You come out of the ground and you enter Limgrave, but I don't think that's the best one.
Oh, I was talking about the Church of Anticipation, the very first.
Oh yeah, actually, even the Church of Anticipation at the start. Yeah, I never even thought of that. I always think of it like
the game doesn't start.
Everyone thinks of the
Limgrave.
Your first steps or whatever. Like, and it's similar to how when you come out of the cave in say Dark Souls 2 and you come to Majula, which is the hub world, and there's like beautiful sun shining and there's green grass. This game has a lot of those moments. My favorite is when you come out of Stormvale Castle and you come to Liarnia of the Lakes. This is straight up like you look out into this big kind of swampy giant lake region with creatures and animals, and like on top of a big huge freestanding like cliff in the center of the lake looks like Hogwarts. It's just this, like, this game has a day and night cycle, so at night it looks gorgeous, in this beaming sun it looks gorgeous. There's a weather cycles as well, there's rain and stuff like that, and another attention to detail actually, you know, like your fire magic and stuff, less potent in the rain.
I heard that, and lightning is more.
Yeah, simple things like that the game doesn't tell you, but you can see the damage you're doing to enemies, so like you could eventually yourself put two and two. Yeah, you could work it out for yourself. But anyway, in terms of areas, like Liarnia of the Lakes for me is like, I think that's one of the areas I've spent the most time in.
Yeah.
I think partially because I'm a mage build as well, and that's where kind of that area is the Magic Academy, and it's where a lot of equipment and stuff can be found for mages. But I also think it's just one of the prettiest areas. Don't get me wrong, I do have a soft spot for Nokron as well.
Yeah.
Caelid can go fuck itself. That place is a horrible fever dream of a Bloodborne nightmare. Yeah. That place is just awful. Everything in there is like something from a fucking nightmare. But anyway, I spend a lot of time there because I'm a mage build, and I spent a lot of time exploring that area because there was a lot of magic and stuff to be found. So I suppose it's a good time as any to talk about gameplay and our builds. Like, I'm a mage, so my build was to specialize in firing off magic from a distance, you know, or somewhat of a distance. Don't get too close to the enemy because I am a glass cannon. Like, you know, one or two slaps and I am dead. Some bosses have been like insta-killing me, obliterating me in one go. Especially later game bosses, because I'm supposed to stand back and chuck spells from a distance. The spells are all super pretty particle effects, like your stone pebbles and your rain of stars and your meteors, and you know, there's one you get much later in the game that's just called like Rain of Meteors, where literally like portals open in the sky and you rain down giant purple meteors, and like it's absolutely gorgeous to look at.
That was so when I first fought Margit, so because I've mentioned my first build was claws. I went claws for the entire game, specifically hook claws, bleed. I wanted to play like I was in an anime, really. I love the backstep dodging. I mean, the dodging skills kind of took over from Monster Hunter because it also has a very similar like iframe dodging. It's a bit longer in Monster Hunter. Obviously, the window is a bit shorter when it comes to Elden Ring. But so I was already used to like dodging, getting out of the way, getting up close and personal. I'm very used to, from like the Monster Hunter games, being glued to enemies. I glue myself, get right in the pocket, and don't get out. Now, that caused issues. That absolutely caused issues. Absolutely caused frustration. But that was just, as I said, that was how I wanted to play it. I just snuck. The second opportunities arose, I had the combos all worked out, my R2 to R1, L1, then just absolutely slamming into L2 to get back around, just keep repeating that 3-point combo over and over again. But on my very first attempt at Margit, I had to do it with a summon. Now, I did it with the Sorcier Roger.
Good old Roger.
So that was a silly move to do, because when you summon from yellow summoning signs, the boss's health doubles, which is like fair enough. But if you summon from Spirit Ashes, it do not. So that's why I elected to go with Mimic. After, like later on in the game, this is obviously after this is. Once I got it, because it's a kind of start of, well, it's some sort of mid-game item, I suppose, the Mimic Ash tier, but it's
mid on
mid
the
to
way
late,
to late.
Mid. But it's so fun with claws, because your Mimic also procs bleed, so the two of yous are just hacking away, and just their bleed meter is going up, or it's just absolutely flying through the roof. Like if the two of yous get a combo off, you have bleed inflicted. It's proper nice. Yeah. So yeah.
So to echo that point, I also for a good while used the Ashavor. Ashavors, for anyone who doesn't know, look, if you're listening this far, you'll know what an Ashavor is. It's it's a phantom you can summon that like will do something to help you out in the game.
Sorry, do you mean
like,
Spirit Ashes? I think you said Ash.
Sorry, Spirit
yeah.
Ashes. I did. I always confuse the two. Spirit Ashes. So like, for example, one of the Spirit Ashes is like a pack of wolves. And it's 5 or 6 wolves that come out, and they're great at jumping around and distracting the enemy. Like either computer controlled or AI controlled or whatever, and they can take a few hits while distracting the enemy and biting at them and do a bit of damage, and they're a good distraction technique. The one me and Aaron are talking about is called the Mimic's Tier. And what that spirit summon does is it mimics your character's build. Your stats, your weapons, your consumable items, your magic, everything. It was super powerful. Now it's been nerfed a little bit in a recent update, but it's still pretty good. Like even after nerf, it's still, fairly hard.
It is. Like, I mean, I play, so I think I could be wrong, but I believe I finished the game like the day it got nerfed and I was still using it, so it's still completely viable. Little side note, I don't remember the name of the specific talisman, but there is a talisman you can get that ensures all boss aggro stays on you. If you equip that, summon your mimic, and then de-equip that, the boss stays aggroed to your mimic the entire fight. That's all I'm saying. It's a thing you can do.
See, there's stuff you can figure out playing. There's stuff you can do playing phone games, ladies.
It's a handy little tip.
You know what I mean? This is what it is a very good tip.
Sorry, I was going to say, going back, to the original point that you were saying about magic, when I summoned Roger for Marga, the first thing I noticed was how insanely pretty the glintstone magic looks. Those blue crystals flying around, the light, especially the way like they've animated Margit's robes, all the Omen's robes really, but like because it's so flowy, and then with those like blue crystals, the glintstone crystals flying around him, and then that on top of like the glow from his yellow hammer, and that's another thing that needs to be mentioned. The lighting is insane. The magic looks so nice, and I'm about to get into that now because I am a mage build, so I've almost collected all the sorceries in the game. So I've tried a lot of them. Some of them are amazing, some of them are kind of crap. But every single one of them looks glorious. So there is a spell called Loretta's Great Bow, where you literally summon a big blue like magic bow, and you pull it back to fire a magical projectile, but you can hold it and charge it. And as you charge it, the bow actually starts growing bigger in front of you, and so does the projectile, and then it flies and like blows up, and it does serious damage to an enemy. And like just the effects of that, there's one called it's one of the legendary sorceries. It's called Founding Rain of Stars, and you wave your wand around or whatever, grand, and then a load of like twinkly star-filled clouds appear above an enemy and start just raining down blue magic projectiles like a rain shower, like a storm. And like it's just so pretty. Like the meteor sorceries, you've used some of the meteor sorceries. Yeah, I've personally used Rocksling, but I've seen like maxed out the meteor
hail of meteors or whatever, which is like don't get me wrong, in a game where like it's about, keeping on your toes and not getting killed, like some of the sorceries, like that meteor sorcery we're talking about, the animation basically keeps you locked in an animation of doing it, because you lift up your staff, you slam it into the ground like Gandalf style, and like wind, like your cloak starts blowing in the wind and meteors start raining down from portals in the sky, like, and it is just insanely pretty and insanely powerful. Magic is insanely powerful. Because this game makes it so easy to respec, one of your playthroughs, it is definitely worth respecing to Magic and having a bit of fun.
Yeah, I was actually originally going to intend to do that with the hook claw, but the only reason I started again was because I don't remember doing this, but I guess I must have sold like a load of weapons, because I got to like the end game and I was like, let me just have a look at like what weapons I had, and I had like 6. I was like, okay, I'm just gonna have to play through again, no problem. So I just did. I hopped in, but this second build that I'm doing now, I'm kind of aiming for like almost like a holy paladin build. I'm looking, it's as I mentioned, like sword and shield. I'm thinking about actually swapping to a great sword and shield, and then on top of that, I want to have. I have the spell. I can't remember what it's called. I'm like 2 points of intellect off of getting used to it properly. Because again, I've only literally started. I've only just beaten Margit on this noob. I beat him with no HUD and no summon, which I was very happy about. And no music as well.
Nice.
Literally just had me and him just duking it out. I tell you what, it's some way to play. Because like when you beat him and you can't see his health bar and just all of a sudden he stops moving and you go, I did it.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah,
That's great.
Yeah, I'd recommend giving that a shot. I'm going to try do it for more bosses. Maybe it's a very bad idea because it also doesn't show you your own health bar. But
yeah, that's not great.
No, there are some things like that. Obviously I do have slight issue with. I would like a slightly. I know there is like a dynamic HUD where you only get the what do you call it, the compass at the top of the screen. I mean, personally, I would prefer if I just always saw my health bar, even like give or take the FP and stamina. That'd be cool. I don't need to see that all the time.
So
but even if I just
on the PS5, I don't know, maybe you have different options on the PC, but on the PS5, like when I'm not in combat at all, the HUD completely disappears off the screen. It just fades away or whatever. And if I tap triangle, which is kind of your interact button and stuff, the HUD comes back, which is great.
Yes.
But if I get into combat, or if I come across an enemy and I lock onto an enemy, my HUD instantly appears.
Yes. Yeah. No, I have the same. Yeah.
Which is that suits me perfectly fine. I don't mind that at all.
Yeah.
You know, and in boss fights and stuff, it's never gone down unless you specifically turn it off. And I'm quite happy. You know what? Actually, while we're talking about, let's talk about some bosses. Yes. This game has a lot of bosses.
188, I believe.
Yes.
Somewhere around.
Some of them are. So we have mini bosses. We have like story bosses. We have what are called field bosses, which are you can run across an enemy in the open world, and next minute the classic like Souls red health bar comes up at the bottom of the screen for a boss fight, and you're just out in the open world. You know, which means you can just run if you want. You can just leg it and be like, they're field bosses. Then you have like mini dungeon bosses, legacy dungeon bosses, and like they all offer some epic boss fights in different ways.
Absolutely. As I meant, like one of my favorite ones I came up with, and not just because of like mechanics or anything, but just because it was one of the few boss fights where I'm like, this feels like I'm fighting a gigantic dragon. Was that magma worm at the end of the Runestorm precipice? But in saying that, if you happen to prefer, I just prefer fighting like a 8-foot tall human. Oh, there's about 6 of them. If you're like, well, I actually prefer dog enemies. Well, I have about 8 bosses you're gonna love. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's anything you could want to get out of this game, you can. Obviously within the game's restrictions and its combat, but like, the amount it offers is insane. Speaking of bosses, tell me which. Okay, first off, favorite and then least favorite.
So, what was such an epic fight, which is one of the reasons I love it so much. Now, it was difficult, don't get me wrong. It's FromSoft's bosses are usually difficult. The Star Scourged Radan.
Yeah.
That is like the animeist, biggest, epicest.
Did you beat him pre or post patch? Because I think he got patched as well in the same patch as the Mimic.
He got nerfed.
Nerfed.
I beat him,
sorry.
Yeah, I beat him pre-patch.
Yeah, same. Yeah. Oh, that's a good feeling.
It's a tough fight, but like it's like once again spoiler territory. It's such an epic fight that like you go and like it's all part of this whole thing called like the Festival of Radan, where Radan is this once great warrior who has been infected with the thing called Scarlet Rot that has warped his mind, and now he wanders his own little battlefield, kind of waiting to be sort of put out of his misery. But no one's been strong enough to defeat him. So every year they hold a festival called the Festival of Radan, which you can attend and try kill Radan. And when you attend it, you meet lots of NPCs that you've met throughout the story there. And when you get out into the boss arena, which is unusual for a Souls game, normally for a Souls game you can summon 2 friends or NPCs to help you in a boss fight, if they're there or available. This lets you summon like 5, 6, 7 NPCs to help you come in, and it's just this big epic fight of you and your NPC friends who you've done quests with and stuff all fighting this big, ginormous, like 25-foot tall samurai looking dude with big giant swords who has meteor sorceries and can, like, you know, or gravity sorceries even they're called. He can rain down meteors, he can use gravity sorceries to pull you in closer and stuff like this. And it's in a giant arena that's so big, like, you need to use your horse to move around. You know, it's insane. It's absolutely an insanely epic fight. The scale
of that battle
is unbelievable.
Now, I know that it does lead itself to be a bit tedious at the start, dodging the arrows constantly, because you're going to have to do that a lot. But for anyone who hasn't played it or hasn't seen it yet, it's essentially about a half-mile run to the boss at the very start of the game, which includes you have to use your horse, because once you get to a certain point, there's a move that obviously requires you to hop on your horse to avoid. But
yes, where he goes up into the sky and turns into a comet and flies back down to Earth to try explode you in a single hit.
Now, you mentioned him using gravity magic. Do you know why Star Scourge Radan learned gravity magic?
To hold back the giant comet that comes and hits the Earth when you kill him.
Also to lessen the weight of him on his horse's back. And also,
his tiny little horse. That is kind of silly.
It's silly, but I love it. I keep forgetting he's not on roller skates. It just looks like it. To keep the stars in the sky, and that, you know, as you said, like, obviously that's why he is the scourge of the stars. And all these things, like, you will only pick up all these little itty bits of backstory by talking to your friends, by getting into communities about this game, by, like, looking it up afterwards. By not telling you anything, it promotes talking about it, because, like, nobody likes what's the word begins with an A? Nobody likes when you don't know something, when something is uncertain. Ambiguity. I kept thinking of an anonymity for some reason. I couldn't get that out of my head. So nobody likes ambiguity. And the first thing you do is go, okay, well, why? And then you're instantly thrown into, like, the lore and the background story of the game. Yeah. And that is one of the beauties of it. And I think, unfortunately, some people might maybe have not been as receptive to that and just gone, no, Babby sitting at tables, spoon feed information. That sounds like
some people prefer that. And I can understand not wanting to
some
work.
Some people don't have the time to read, like, 7 novels of lore. I know I'm messing there. I'm not actually. I'm not angry at people, but no, it's just that is also inherently one of the beauties. As we said, like, the game tells you nothing, so everything you get in that game, you did yourself. Everything feels earned and beautiful. But especially,
like, for example, you were saying there, when you beat Radan, a cutscene triggers, and a big, huge meteor comes and strikes somewhere in the lands between, which is the world you're in. And then, like, you're like, whoa, that's really cool. And unless you have a chat with one of the NPCs after the fight, like, they literally turn around to you and go, to think, like, that Radan was powerful enough that he's been holding back that comet all this time. He was the only thing preventing that from striking the world. Now, without that comet, you don't get your entrance to Nokron, the Eternal City. So, like, that comet goes and strikes a part of the map, and you go there, and there is a huge crater that has pierced its way down into Nokron, the Eternal Underground City, and that's how you get in there. So, like, unless you beat Radan, which he's not necessary, you don't have to beat Radan to beat the game.
Yeah, so you could completely miss it.
So if you don't beat Radan, you don't get the comet, you don't get the entrance to Nokron, the Eternal City. You miss out an entire big, huge underground area of the game, and that's just because you didn't bother to go fight a boss that maybe you found too hard. Now, some people would say that's a negative. You know, this boss is too hard, I'm never going to beat him, I'm not going to do it, and then you end up missing out. You find out you missed out on huge chunks of the game. I don't think so. I think it's really cool.
Yeah.
I think it's cool of them to have the confidence to go, we don't care if you don't see like 85% of our game.
I mean, especially, look, in today's day and age, you can always have, YouTube's a thing, so you will always have access.
Yeah.
But if you want to experience it firsthand, you have to go do it. Now, on top of that, I find a lot of time when people say, oh, something's way too hard and I can't beat this boss and it's impossible. And I think you're just not changing your strategy. Because that's another part of it, is like, you can't just, with some bosses, you can run in DPS straight into the ground. Good job, see you later. Some bosses, you're not going to do that with. Some bosses, you're going to have to stand there and wait for 30 seconds till they initiate the combat, so then you can block and you can do, and then that will work 100% of the time for you, but you're not doing that because, oh, he's big and scary, got to get rid of him now. And that's, again, goes back to the game absolutely rewards you for, as I said, the correct behavior and for stopping and learning and experiencing. And similar to how kind of Death Stranding does it, the game like chokes your progression. The choking is the wrong word, but it absolutely decides the pace. The game decides the pace of the game, right? And the problem is we're just not used to that in like our current gaming landscape. There's very few games ever offer anything other than, you can just run through every level if you want. Just keep the hitting attack and everything that stands in front of you will die. But obviously when it comes to any Souls-like game, but especially Elden Ring, unless like if the game goes, no, if you go try burst that enemy down, they'll just hit you in a combo and you're dead. Well, then I guess you're not bursting that enemy down. You're never going to do that. Same with bosses. Like it's all about learning and patience and trial and error. Like you get dying in a Souls game is like getting goals scored on you in FIFA or something. I don't know what the comparison is, but
It is, and it's a practice makes perfect, and it's a perseverance. Souls games have always been about perseverance, and like you're saying, like Radan, who we were talking about, is an optional boss. Like you only actually need to beat like 2 main story bosses to actually roll credits on the game. Like you beat these 2 bosses, it allows you access to a certain area, and then you can go to kind of like the final thing and do the final boss, and then like you're done if you want. And missing a huge chunk of the game, and to have the balls to do that is pretty great for FromSoft. But back to bosses, like, I know I have a few still to go. I know I've yet to come up against Melania, the blade of whatever. I've heard through the grapevine that Melania is, But because I haven't fought Melania yet, the one I had a lot of struggle with and I found very difficult was Moog, the Blood
Lord
guy.
I was going to ask, had you been down there? Yeah.
Yes, I have been down there, and that's a tough fight. That blood loss that he can inflict on you at like random times is tough.
Yes.
Now, thank God for my like absolutely boss melting mage build. I have, you may have seen videos on YouTube. I have the like, you know, the like Death Star laser beam.
Oh, Renala's. Is that Renala's spell? She uses it.
So it's a combination of, there's a spell called Terra Magicus that when you cast it creates a magic kind of symbol on the ground which boosts the damage of your magic. There's a mixture you can put in your physic flask that increases your magic damage and also doesn't consume any FP for 10 seconds. And then there's a couple of talismans and a couple of like Lusat's staff and a couple of items you can wear to also boost your magic. And then there's a thing called Com Azur, which is a spell that you can literally hold down till you exhaust all your magic. So you can hold that down for like maximum nuclear damage, but because you've drank that physic concoction, you're not wasting any FP. So if it's a slow moving boss who's walking towards you slowly, by the time he gets to you, you can actually have his entire health bar melted.
Yeah, I've seen it.
And that actually happened to work with Moog, the blood guy. He walks so slowly in the boss fight that I was able to get in, get the Terra Magicus off, drink the flask, set up my spell, fire it. And by the time he got to me, most of his health was gone, so I could kind of just dodge around a bit and fire a few spells and finish him off, you know?
Yeah, I wish my journey through Moog wasn't as... I wish it was that flashy. Moog took me a couple of attempts. See, from very first attempt, his first phase is very susceptible to DPS. Perfect, that's what I do. Second phase is not, because he just flies around and is generally incredibly annoying. That and his I can't remember the
blood loss.
The triple blood loss.
Where it puts the red ring on you and then he like smashes them whatever and it takes off like a huge chunk of your health bar. That sucks ass, man. That really does suck ass.
Yeah, so once I figured out the way to get through that, I was eventually able to get it after a couple of goes. I won't say it was entirely skill, but look, having as I said, the mimic ash floating around, at least taking some of the aggro off helped. But it's gonna be interesting to see how I do it now second time round. But see, yeah. I didn't do the entire game or all the bosses, but I think I'm gonna aim. I don't think I'm going to finish the game in the second playthrough. I might just max out a character and then just mess around with different builds.
Bosses.
And at least until I run out of larval tiers. Although, I don't know, is it possible to get a bell bearing with them? Or if there's some way to...
I'm not sure, to be honest, which I don't know.
I don't know if they're fully... I don't know if they're fully limited. I only respect, I think, twice, and that was because the first 2 times I just allocated them in, like, places. Oh, no, sorry. Actually, first time getting up to Renala, I had basically spec'd in the wrong place, and then the second time I got a new Ash of War, which changed the scaling on my weapon, so it was better to just, like, respec and just throw the extra points into a different...
We're approaching like the hour and 10-minute mark here, so I think we'll surmise or we'll wrap up. So you tell me, Scott, give me your summary of all your feelings on Elden Ring.
Elden Ring is just Breath of the Wild but for goths. And now you.
That's an apt description. Like I said before, I think the world is hauntingly beautiful. Mm-hmm. It is a scary place to traverse, but also exhilarating. It has top tier, like S tier, God tier game design, in my opinion. I'm sure not everyone agrees. A lot of people do. You do hear the comparison online of just like, it's just a different version of Breath of the Wild. Breath of the Wild already done it. That's great. Great for Breath of the Wild. Not detracted from Breath of the Wild. And like, yes, every open world has similar game things. Look at all the worlds that have towers that you have to climb to unlock parts of them. Yeah. Exactly. But anyway, so yeah, the hauntingly beautiful world. Like a super rich, dense world to explore. Nothing ever felt too samey. There are parts that are similar, like the catacombs, for example, are kind of like they all do a similar thing. But nearly every catacomb, though it looks the same, still has a different gimmick or a different mechanic or a different something. Yeah, or you just
know, like, oh, this is a new catacomb. You're like, the others didn't swing left immediately, or you could tell that this is different layout. Yeah,
they're reused assets. Don't get me wrong; they all have the same kind of bricks and stuff like that. But yeah, similar catacombs remind me of the Chalice dungeons in Bloodborne. They're similar to that kind of thing, but they're out in the open world for you to find and come across and explore on your own.
Yeah,
like,
stumble into.
And then like you go to like a mining cave where there's lots of dudes mining rock, and you're like, oh, this is where I find the stones that I need to upgrade my weapons. The mining stones and the smithing stones, which makes sense. A lot of stuff just makes sense when you think about it logically. But sorry, I'm supposed to be summarizing here. I'm going off on a tangent.
It's so hard not to do. Like
I know, especially when you love it like we do.
Especially we were saying beforehand, we're like, we're just so excited. We just want to talk about Elden Ring, and now we've gotten in here and we're like, words don't do it justice. You can't just talk about it.
You can't speak. Hour and a half of silence, just sitting here going, Elden Ring's great. But yeah, beautiful world, super dense and like full to the brim with stuff and places and gorgeous places to explore and scary places to explore and wonderful enemy design, and like it's just, I can't gush enough about the game. And I know some people will go, well, you're a Souls fanboy anyway. Well, yes I am, and I don't care, I'm going to gush. It is the best game I think From has ever made. And like 100%, it is phenomenal. I think it's one of the best open world games I've played. Like it's up there with like Witcher and stuff like that in terms of a fully realized open world with stuff to do and places to go and things to see. But yeah, that's it. I'd encourage everyone to give it a try. I'd encourage everyone not to be put off by the whole Souls thing of like, oh, the reputation of being super hard. It is a lot more accessible. Don't get me wrong, you're going to struggle and it's going to be hard. But I see online lately of a lot of people going like, you know, Elden Ring was my first From game and it's amazing. I love it so much. I'm going to go back and play all the other Souls games, and like that warms my heart. So I'd encourage y'all to give it a try. Please do.
Please don't be put off. As I said, look, maybe and I don't mean this as an attack on anyone, maybe you're just doing it wrong, and that's fine. Like, you have to,
That's okay.
yeah, you have to figure these things out. I mean, like, look, we both did it wrong at some extent. As we said, we died. We didn't do hitless runs on our first attempt, and that's just the point. It's one of those things where I won't go because I know we're wrapping it up, but that was one of the things. At no point did I find the market fight annoying, because straight away when I got in, I was like, I need to just learn him. I just need to learn him. If he hits me, it's because I didn't learn that combo well enough. And then eventually I beat him, and it was because every time I died, I just went, oh, that's a triple spin, so I can't dodge twice. I have to dodge 3 times, specifically dodge to his right. And it's stuff like that just makes the game. It's, as I said, it's rewarding, it's gorgeous, it's beautiful. I'm so happy it's
super
here.
Rewarding.
Yeah,
the challenge and just discovering stuff is super rewarding. So look, I encourage everyone to give it a go. We obviously love it. If you sat here and listened to us for the last hour and nearly 20 odd minutes, you know we love it. If you're struggling, why not, join our Discord, which will be linked below, and you can ask questions and we can help. We might even set up a little Elden Ring sub Discord thread thing, where we can discuss lore and whatnot. But yeah, do that. This has been the Gamecast. I've been Shane. He's been Aaron. You'll find links to our Facebook. We have a wonderful casual game community on Facebook where we post memes and talk shit about games and post this podcast. We have a Discord. We have an Instagram. We have a Twitter. All will be linked at the bottom of this. So we're going to say goodbye, because if we stay any longer, we're just going to continue to talk about Elden Ring. And as much as we'd love to, nobody wants to listen to 3 hours of 2 dudes talking about it.
And we want to go play.
Yes, we do. The more we talk to you, the less we play Elden Ring. So thanks everybody for watching. Not even watching, listening, should I say. This is a podcast. Aaron, we got to keep up the tradition. Who do we tell? Sometimes we tell a milkman, sometimes we tell a butcher, sometimes we tell who do we tell to go listen to this podcast, number 1, and to go play Elden Ring?
Go tell Fia the Deathbed Companion, and give
Fia the Deathbed Companion,
and give her a hug while you're at it.
Give her a big old hug. For those of you who have played, you'll know what that is. For those of you who are going to play, you'll find out what that is. Once again, I have been Shane. He has been Aaron. This has been the Casual Gamecast. Take her handy, keep it easy, but most of all, stay casual.